Can you follow bedo ko le social security?
Yo. Nageba. Now, aka men foyten. Tonya ba. Bedo ko social security. Baraka men foreng. To mo fem pensionnaire Gambia banko kanja. Social security yela pensionnaire dat la pal. Ko do la fal. Yo ko la fana ka droba go di mo la karta ne lulni ya ko la dila. Droba go yala wala langamate. Muntuma. Mulu bera ninji sa imponta ni bata kan. Wato mtem tong mita wato. Intakata. Infelanga. Nageba.
Nimbe jongo ren.
But social
security. Enjong manso.
Ngabulaja.
Welcome back. Former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher has died aged 87. Baroness Thatcher suffered a stroke on Monday morning and later died. Mrs. Thatcher was the longest-serving British Prime Minister in the 20th century after winning 3 consecutive elections for the Conservative Party from 1979 to 1990. Reacting to the death of the former Prime Minister, the current British Premier David Cameron says he will cut short his official visit to Spain while describing the late Baroness Thatcher as a great Prime Minister and a great Britain. We have more on the life of one of the 20th century's most iconic leaders in this report by CNN's Dan Rivers.
This is how many will remember Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady. As the UK's first female party leader and Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher was one of the dominant figures of the 20th century, a politician who helped to mould parties other than her own. From a modest background as a grocer's daughter, she became immortalised in stone. She was easy to caricature, hated by some, revered by others, but she did win 3 elections in a row. Before Thatcher, under a Labour government, came the widespread strikes of the winter of discontent.
Many people in Britain in 1979 felt this country was probably ungovernable. They doubted whether Margaret Thatcher could govern it. Indeed, I suspect there's a lot of people felt she might make it worse.
But she faced up to union leaders like Arthur Scargill and his miners.
She came on and through sheer force of will, she made economic and political changes of such moment that we are still feeling their effects today, 25 years on.
Public housing was sold to tenants, state industries were privatised as Thatcher sought to create a nation of capitalists. Her relentless drive left an imprint not just on her own Conservatives, but on all of Britain's parties, forcing Tony Blair's new Labour Party to tack right to become electable. And she was unfussed when accused of lacking compassion.
I will not change just to court popularity.
Thatcher restored Britain's clout in world affairs, making a pal of her ideological soulmate Ronald Reagan, and insisting Mikhail Gorbachev was a man with whom the West could do business. But if she relished the wider international scene, she never much cared to see Britain getting closer to Europe.
We have not successfully rolled back the frontiers of the state in Britain, only to see them reimposed at a European level.
She was told it was impossible to win a reduction in Britain's contribution to the European common market finances. She handbagged her fellow European leaders until they gave her a rebate. And she famously insisted on fighting a military campaign 8,000 miles from home to win back the Falkland Islands invaded by Argentina, a conflict which cost 250 British lives, but which cemented her reputation.
No longer the sick man of Europe.
She never cracked the problems of Northern Ireland, although again she showed courage when the IRA blew up the Conservatives' conference hotel. In the end, her strident style and the casualty rate in her cabinets left her short of friends when it mattered. Trouble came with her plans for local council finances, a flat-rate tax that would have forced a duke and a dustman to pay the same, provoked riots in the streets. Her colleagues were alarmed too by the growing vehemence of her Euroscepticism.
He wanted the Commission to be the executive and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No, no, no.
In 1990, her own MPs began to doubt she could lead them to another victory. She was challenged for the party leadership and withdrew from the contest, mortally wounded after her cabinet advised her it was all over.
And we're very happy that we leave the United Kingdom in a very, very much better state than when we came here 11.5 years ago.
As her car left Downing Street for the last time, she wept. But it wasn't long before she became Baroness Thatcher, serving in Britain's upper chamber, the House of Lords. Although this was the end of her time as a frontline politician, her influence and opinion still counted for years. Her appearance became rarer as her health deteriorated. She was too frail to attend the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton, but she did manage to get back to that famous doorstep one last time.
Margaret Thatcher's place in history is assured. She was granted the rare privilege of having her statue placed here at Westminster opposite that of Winston Churchill while she was still alive. But she was a divisive figure for many in Britain, symbolising the politics of the 1980s, whose influence will be felt for many more decades to come. Dan Rivers, CNN, London.
May her soul rest in perfect peace. Israelis from across the Jewish nation today marked the symbolic 2-minute silence in remembrance of the more than 6 million Jewish who died during the Nazi Holocaust. Addressing his country people on Holocaust Memorial Day, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed Israel's resolve to defend itself from her enemies. Let's look at this report for more.
Israel on Monday, bringing millions to a halt for 2 minutes. On the streets, in offices and schools, everyone stopped to remember the 6 million Jews who were killed during the Nazi Holocaust. The annual ritual, which takes place at 10 a.m., is a central part of the Holocaust Memorial Day, which began at sundown on Sunday. This year, the ceremonies are largely dedicated to the memory of the fighters of the Warsaw Ghetto on the 70th anniversary of their uprising. The commemoration was an opportunity for the Prime Minister to launch a warning to Iran.
What has changed since the Holocaust is our determination and our ability to defend ourselves, on our own. We appreciate the international community's efforts to stop Iran's nuclear program, but at no stage will we leave our fate in the hands of others, even in the hands of our closest friends.
A clear message addressed to Washington about Israel's current priorities. Returning to the region to try to revive the peace process between Palestinians and Israelis, the U.S. Secretary of State may well see his mission diverted. He has already held a meeting with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and was expected to see Benjamin Netanyahu shortly after. During his stopover in Turkey, John Kerry made a point of repeating the U.S. position on this issue.
We would repeat to Iran, it is our desire to have a diplomatic solution, but this choice really lies in the hands of Iranians.
Kerry also warned Tehran that negotiations would not be an interminable process.
Thank you.
Tension remains high between North and South Korea. There are reports of heightened activity at the North's nuclear test site and a missile battery.
We'll still go for a break.
Go get up. Now make you put your hand on your. Yes. You know, you forget to say we not pensioner. Our social security are common rights now. Then they pay 15 months drawback to all pensioners. And you know tap they get salary increase for all pensioners. Monica, are they the work?
Yes, so Auntie Medina, waiting pageants they tell you all not true. Social security now, then they give 15 months drawback to all pensioners. And not that no more. Then don't add back when they salaries them. As they talk to you, so people in they queue for collect their own money. They cannot true they tell me. Not true are they talk. Not they are they walk. And me are they go. If me and you no wait. Me are not they wait anything are they go. Go. Pa Jones.
Monica.
Social security.
Now we you know.
Well, Welcome back, and it's now time for the sports news with our sports lady, Fatou Jassi.
Thank you.